We're going to move swiftly on now to our next panel discussion, and we are running slightly behind time, so we are going to stick to the times now, if that's okay, ladies and gents, so that we can fit everything in this afternoon. And this next panel discussion is teacher-parent interactions and its impact on students' performance. And I'd like to invite to the stage our moderator. Please put your hands together, everybody, for Onyekachi Ginger-Eke. Did I pronounce that correctly? No, I do apologize.
Hi, everyone. So it's Onyekachi Ginger-Eke, but you're forgiven. Okay. So the beauty about being on the third day is that we've had the luxury of listening to different, panelists, with topics that impact what we're talking about. So we're bringing it home by talking about teacher-parent relationships. There are things we want you to have in mind as we go over there to talk. We've heard learning is a lifelong journey. We also know that learning starts from when the child is in the womb, when they hear your voice. So this lets us know that learning is from birth to death, right? And we just heard the team talk about how different cultures impact how we look at teachers. Some cultures revere teachers, and so it sort of impacts relationship between teachers and parents, because even parents look at teachers as like the gods and goddesses. So as we go into how we're moving from traditional learning, traditional tools, to online learning, and who plays the particular role, I would like to invite the panelists on this beautiful team, Iram, Dr. Iram, and I pray I pronounce that well. Iram, Dr. Iram. Welcome on stage, please. Aayush, Arora. That seems like I pronounced it well. So Dr. Iram is the head of curriculum, Emirates National Schools. Aayush Arora is the chief manager of GSL Edu Excellence. And then, we have all met her before this session. She was just the one speaking. So Mukta, Verma, CEO Education Expert, Chief Consultant of QuaEdu. Welcome on stage, please. Hello, everyone. Hello, panel team members. So we have a beautiful topic that impacts everyone here, because at some point in our life, we've either been the child, the teacher, or the parent. So I'll start off with our first question. Is there a case for parent-teacher relationship? Why is it important? And what effect does it have on the child? As we speak about its importance, what effect does it have on the child? What effect does it have on the child's performance? Dr. Iram.
Good afternoon, everyone. So that's a loaded question, right? Is there a case for parent-student interaction and teacher interaction? Absolutely. I think that it's a partnership, that students without their parents' engagement will lack a lot if it's just the teachers. And oftentimes you'll notice in schools that the students that need the most parent engagement have the least parent engagement. That naughty child in our classroom, they're never absent and their parent is never there. So we definitely want to make sure that we're engaging parents in a way that is not only building awareness about what we're doing as teachers and educators with them in the classroom, but that we're also trying to educate the parent.
Hello. Yeah, hi. I've been on the three sides of the education system, being as a parent of a child and then teacher myself. And the third angle of the education system is on the regulator side. So working with KHDA for last 15 years and regulating education system, managing technical vocational education and training, as well as quality assurance, as also the teacher licensing in Dubai. So I have seen the importance of teacher-parent relationship. It depends upon what kind and type of relationship is established. The relationship between parent and teacher is very important for the education system, as well as for the learning outcomes of students. It also builds on, we have always seen where, and even the research has proven it, where there is a good interaction or good partnership between teacher and parents, the education, the learning outcomes, the behavior, the progress of child is much better and advanced. Their behavior, they are good in behavior in the classroom. They are successful in their academics. They are motivated and engaged in their learning.
Good afternoon. In my opinion, I'll definitely, agree to both of you. From my perspective, operating in a school, operating my consultancy, even on our end, we do the same thing. We firmly believe that the interaction between the parents, teacher, and the students need to be on the common ground. We need to understand each person's perspective. We need to understand what are their experiences. If they are quoting a certain thing, what is the reason behind that? If a teacher is quoting a particular thing to a parent, they need to respect their experience. Same goes for the teacher also, that they need to respect the parent's experience. Only and only then can we bring the best out of the children. The difference can be observed, as you rightly quoted, that the naughty ones are actually always present. So there's a difference. Maybe the parent is not accepting what the views of the teacher are, or I'll say even the teacher is a little hesitant on expressing her complete views, that she is just like, okay, at least the student is excelling in academics. Let's not cover up the co-curricular, maybe not cover up the classroom behavior, which we try to incorporate in our system. We at our school always ask the teachers to keep a record of every student's classroom behavior, to keep a record of how he or she is talking to the other fellow class members, and then interact with the parents to have the commonalities and work on the child that way.
Excellent. So, we've made a case for it. There is a case for teacher-parent relationship, and it has an impact on the child, positive, as we've said. But, I'm sure as we're thinking teacher-parent, all our mind is on K-12. To what extent do we continue this teacher-parent? Does it go up to higher education? What's your opinion?
So, the parent-teacher interactions, the way they happen, are so critical. And, we all know that at the elementary level, parents are very engaged with their children's learning. They're in the classroom, they're helping, they're classroom mothers, they're part of the PTO, they're volunteering. So at the elementary level, you see it at that level. But when it comes into like middle school, high school, and that interference between the academics and the parent, so the respect is definitely given, that the parent knows their child the most. But when it comes into the territory of the teacher territory or the administrator's territory is where I would say that's when we need to kind of, as administrators, I have 13,000 students in my school right now. And as administrators, we need to, set some boundaries and say that, this is where your child is learning that social domestic curriculum. Let them learn this now. The stakes are low. Let them fall now, or let them get into this consequence or this trouble at this point so that they can learn that this is the societal norms that they're going to be walking into in real life. So I definitely am a big advocate for middle school and high school to be as independent as possible. Of course, keeping the parents informed, volunteering and help is always welcome. But when it comes to academics, let the schools handle that.
So what about higher education? Do you think there's some level of teacher-parent interaction there?
I have triplets, and my triplets are in college. I wouldn't dare go into their college classroom and say, Mr. Professor, why did you give my child XYZ grade? Or why did you say this to my son? I don't think that there's a place for it, and in fact, and I might get some controversy, I don't even ask my kids for the report cards at that level. There's no reason for that. They know what they're doing, and they're responsible for it.
Interesting. I'll let Mukta go.
Okay. As Dr. Iram said, there are a lot of interaction between teachers and parents at the elementary level, and I think that is the stage where it is needed more, because at that time we are building the foundation of the child, where there are different models of interaction between the parent and the teacher based on the student-focused or the parent-focused model, where we look at it, teacher and the parents are partner into the education system of the child. So where there are a lot of interaction is needed, because when you look at when the child starts school at the first stage or the kindergarten stage, there are a lot of kind of relationship or attachments they have with their caregivers or the nannies or the parents. So when they come to school, they are very anxious. At that point of time, there are a lot of interaction is needed, because the parent was the first teacher of their child. So they taught different kind of education system, culture they are coming with to the schools, and there are anxiety in the students when they are coming to the school, because they are leaving family, home, where they were 24 hours they were around with their parents, they were protecting, caregiving, and attention giving to them, and suddenly they are into the environment where they are on their own. So at that time, a lot of interaction is needed, where they can work together for the development of the child. So parents can tell the teachers how, and teachers can guide the parents how to manage the students or how to support the student with the learning at home. Because after the school, the child will go home where probably support is needed. In certain cases, more support is needed when certain disability or learning needs are identified. At that stage, there are a lot of interaction is needed between the teacher and parent. As the student grow to high school or to the higher education system, I think until the high school point of time to make the decision what child is going to take, till that point of time, some interaction is needed between the teacher and the parent, and along with student being the partner to that, to make the goals for the next stage of the life, what subject to be chosen, which career to be chosen, and what they should know that, yes, I am taking on to this career, what are the outcomes of that career. So there are a lot of career guidance in terms of career guidance, a lot of interaction is needed here. Now there are three partners to it, not only teacher and the parent, there are teacher, parent, and the student to make the goals, to make what the next goals of the next stage of the education system. But once in the college level or the university level, when they have decided which curriculum to go, I think at that point of time, we need to give independence to the student to make decision about their curriculum or their career choices, which way they want to learn. Okay. At that stage, I think it's interaction, more interaction is between the teacher and the student at that stage. But I would still recommend parents to be informed how the child is doing. If there are any issues where parents could be a support system to guide the child, I think parents should be involved.
Thank you, Mukta. I think what I was trying to get at is, to what extent, it may not be with the same, fever as it was in your primary, in your K-12, but at that level, you have some universities send you their results. There's a university in UAE here that calls you in for open day, and I laugh when I see it, and I tell her, I'm going to go for your open day, I'm going to see your books, but it keeps you on top of what they're doing, and just so that they don't get into trouble. You also want to know what they're doing, and I'll tell you a secret. At that age, they still want you to be involved, even though we feel we're encroaching, but they still want you to be involved. So I'll hand it over to Aayush.
Adding on to what you rightly quoted, having the experience of both school and a consultancy in which we interact with students from all the way from nursery to students who are doing their postgrad and maybe undergrad and even doctorates. So in my opinion, it should always be a mixture of things, like the interaction to start from day one when they are coming to the nursery class, going all the way to till the age of 15, it should be the max. Maybe the percentage can only go from 100% to a 90%, not nothing less than that. But all the way from the age group of 15 and when they grow, the percentage should reduce, comparatively. Because when a child is in grade 12, he or she should be given, the choice of their lives. They should be allowed to choose their career. They should be allowed to choose their course. In our case, they should also be allowed to choose their country in which they want to fly. So that interaction should reduce, but at least 20%, 15%, whatsoever is the ratio, the child feels breathable space, and even the parent feel that, okay, my point is being respected. That should always be maintained. I'll say not even that percentage should not go off even throughout the rest of the life. That should always be there.
So Aayush, what I hear you saying is that, and Ginger, what I heard you saying is, as parents, I mean, obviously, our parents to our students are always involved in terms of counseling, coaching, guiding throughout their lives. But when we talk about interference per se, do you feel that in the college level, parents should have that, like she said, have report cards sent home?
To my opinion, there's a very thin line between, sharing your opinion, sharing your experience, and interference.
Right.
Right? There's a very thin line between that. A parent should always understand that. A counselor should always understand that. A counselor, that's the reason it's a counselor.
Right.
Right? It's not, we are not imposing our views. We are giving our experience that these things might be good for you.
And a counselor can't be their mother or father.
Obviously.
Right? So.
And I think it is more coming from the various cultural background as well.
Right.
As we see the Asian background where parents are more involved with the child, decision making, education, even beyond the education system, they are involved in their lives. And in the Western culture, the parents are involved up to the elementary or the middle school level, and where as the child moves to the senior school and the level beyond that, the parents are less involved. So they leave it to the child to make decision, whatever decision they want to make, which way they want to go. So again, it's a cultural differences are
Absolutely.
there, and each family works as a unit, as a differently. So I think those differences coming up from there, how much a parent should be involved or how much it should not be involved, it lot depends upon the culture, the background you are coming from. So.
Excellent. So we've established that, yes, it can continue, from when the child starts school to when they leave school. Because remember, it's lifelong learning. The question at every point in time is, what is the child learning? Is the child learning the academia or is the child learning life? Some children look at their parents as their role model. So some want to be engineers like their parents or doctors. And sometimes, we heard the mental health team talk about when they, welcome the new students and how some of them start talking about some of the issues they have. Those things are not academia. You could have parents that could continue to mentor you, to help you fit into school. And also, the results are sent to parents. So when your child is having a problem, that because the involvement at higher education from the teacher is not like,
Right.
So you actually need that person that would care. Because when we get into university, what you're told is nobody cares if you come to class. We all heard that. So you still need that parent to provide that, stable relationship. Now, maybe if we talk about the next thing, the relationship styles. What relationship styles? How do we foster this relationship in all different levels of education? What methods have people used? What methods do we recommend? I'll start with you, Aayush.
What mentor do we recommend? I don't know. Maybe parental is the best.
So some schools have parent-teachers association meetings. Some schools get parents to go on a trip. Some schools send results, like we've talked about. So maybe I'll start with Dr. Iram, and then I'll come back to you. Or Mukta, whoever wants to go first. Okay.
I think there is a diversity in the types of relationship styles employed at various schools or various communities. It depends. Mainly there are three models. One is basically the professional-driven model where the teacher takes the lead role, where teacher decides educational goals about the students and sends the information home, where there is a less interaction or the involvement of the parent into the education system. So where teacher is sending, even if there is an issue, they will call the parent. So in this kind of a relationship, or in this model, there is less trust between the parent and the teacher. So teacher would call the parent when there is an issue. They will never call a parent when there is a good thing or a good progress about the student, until there is a report card sent home or there is a parent-teacher meeting. But then there is another is a family-allied kind of a model where parents are involved, they are called to the school and they interact with each other. This is more to empower the parents, where they're giving a lot of education to the parent, how to manage the child and how to, there is a much more interaction than the previous model. Then the third model is basically where the teacher and the parent are partner in the education system or in the education of the child, where both come sit together and create the goal plan for the child education system, pathway, what and how, where parents bring the knowledge about the child from home and what teacher may or may not know about the student, and teacher takes that knowledge and gives her own knowledge about the education system and the pedagogy, how to teach, and which area where there is more stress is needed, kind of a thing involved, where the support is needed, where parent can provide the support in the education of the child to meet the learning outcome. So I think the third model is the best model to employ, but again, there are different contexts and different level of the education system. The model will change from one style to the another style. It also depends upon the teacher's relationship model by their own family members, or even the parents' relationship model with their family members, whether it is a relationship with is associated, where there is a trust in their own relationship, so there will be a better relationship building. If there is a fear kind of a relation, they had the association with their relationship building with their family members, or when they were young and when they have gone through. So it all depends upon different type and different styles of the relationship a teacher had or a parent had, and what kind of a partnership model you employ at your school.
I don't know that there is any one model. If I can be so bold to say that, just like as teachers, we ask our teachers to get to know each and every student, that key that unlocks their creativity, how they learn. I think we need to take that time and extend it to understanding our parents. There's so many reasons why our parents don't come to school. Sometimes they feel like they're not educated enough to have an intelligent conversation, so I'd rather not go. Or sometimes they feel that, what's the point? The teacher's not going to listen to me. My kid must be at fault. Or many other reasons that exist as to why our parents aren't as engaged. And so there have been times where you actually make home visits to parents. I've visited their homes in situations where I could tell that there's something wrong with their child. As a superintendent of schools in the States, you would make those visits to say what's going on, what's wrong, and actually deliver that feedback in a way that's in the comfort of their own home. And sometimes that goes so far. But As far as the traditional methods of parent-teacher conferences, volunteer moments and times, field trips, and of course that's there. But to really personalize that experience, to say, I know your child, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make them successful. Can you tell me more about what that would mean and what that would take? So asking them from that point of view and make it authentic, really sincere and authentic. I think that would be the model that any school should take. But sometimes we're so busied with mandates, accountability measures, curriculum coverage, pedagogy, marks, grading, all sorts of things that we kind of forget the human side of education, that we not only teach the tiny people, but we also teach the big people, right?
You know, going with the traditional method, there is something wrong with the PTMs, I'll say. It's not long that I've, cleared my schooling, but there's something wrong with the PTMs. The student always has the fear that, I'm taking my parents and I'm gonna get a scolding behind. So, though the modern days Zoom calls, the Google Meets have added on to this thing. Having a one-to-one interaction have given the parents to express their opinions, have given them the space to talk freely. Having a PTM, I'll say, why not have a field trip? Why not have a high tea? Why not break the barriers in which, as you rightly mentioned, that the parents at time have a certain hesitant. Like, if I'll show up, maybe I'm not carrying a Gucci, maybe I'm not carrying a Prada, which the other parents are. So let's bring them on the ground in which at least they are familiar with the parents of other students. So how about, like, as I said, let's do it in a manner. Let's have a high tea and a Google Meet for the PTMs.
Excellent. So, in fact, I think you started on the next question because we wanted to also check out what's the role of technology, in fostering this relationship. I mean, he's talked about Zoom. This is now for the feedback session. What else? What else do we see technology doing? I mean, when some are doing blended learning.
I can tell you the role of technology when Corona happened, right? So we all went online overnight. And then all of a sudden, we would be able to see our parents walk through the backgrounds of our children as they're taking classes. Or some things that, the parents were seeing in terms of our teaching styles, right? So I believe that technology has really opened some eyes for parents and for our students to say, oh, there's a lot going on in that classroom, or let me get involved in that way. So technology to learn, I mean, we heard the gamifying with technology, without technology. We heard the technology panel that came on board. It's here to stay. As everyone has already said, it's not going anywhere. It's how we leverage it. But I do think that this conference and this platform is so advanced that we're talking about artificial intelligence, we're talking about metaverse, we're talking about incorporating all of these things. But now think at the ground, not only are our teachers fearful of it, but our parents are also fearful of it. They don't know what to expect, and they've never been trained or given that information as to how, or what the investment would look like for the schools, how would it be implemented in the classrooms. Is technology going to be the next teacher or babysitter or substitute for my child? And so in the absence or a void of that awareness, we would rather just avoid it, right? So we need to slowly move into awareness sessions as to what this could look like and let that practice take place organically. But we're talking at a very high level, but at the implementation level, I feel like there needs to be a lot of work for us to kind of lay that bedrock down for them.
Mukta.
I think as we all have seen, as Dr. Iram also mentioned, that during the COVID pandemic time, the technology was suddenly there. And it's pushed so many things forward which we were still thinking onto it. And as a parent or as a teachers or even as a students, we were not prepared for. Everybody had to gear up for that moment of time at the time of the pandemic to continue the education system. There are plus and minuses of each kind of a system. Looking at the plus side, positive side of the technology in parent-teacher interaction, it has helped to and made interaction much easier for the parents who are technology oriented or who have made it easier for them to interact with teacher and for teacher to interact with their parents, just pick up the phone or have a Google call or a call on Teams or Zoom. And it made brought the distance closer. Many times parents are working on 1 or 2 jobs to make their financial ends meet, so they didn't have the proper time. But in this way, technology brought and created a mean to interact between parent and teacher. But on the other hand, it brought a lot of anxiety into the parents who were not, like older parents then, who were not very technologically oriented. So it created more fear in them, how we would use it, what we will do it, and like it makes more vulnerability brought into the parents. So it's both kind of the sets. So I think on one side, the younger parents, they enjoyed it and it has a positive impact. Where there were the older parents, it created bit of anxiety and the fear in them. So we need to prepare it to use the positive side of the technology in the benefit of the parent-teacher engagement, what we are talking about today.
I mean, the good doctor mentioned earlier that 1 out of 10, you had mentioned in the States, did not have technology, right? I come from Texas, and in Texas, similar things happened. We had to issue technology to students and parents. And when we issued technology, the parents didn't know how to use it, right? And this is in the States. Now imagine if we were in developing countries. So we're talking in a way that, yes, technology is there, it's important, it's there to stay, but how do we do it while taking our parents along board and helping them understand that this is a tool for us to help us, not something that we should shy away from or fear.
Excellent, and I agree with you. I mean, teachers are excellent people. Sometimes I see the curriculum and I look at the child and he's just speaking and I wonder, how do I impact knowledge? So yes, doing as a parent, I'm speaking as a parent now, so doing the online learning, it helped me choose the right teacher. So I got the feedback quickly because I listened in the background. It was a case of, Zach is not doing well. And then I listen in the background, and I'm not seeing you teach him anything. And then I switch teachers, and I see them having a ball, and I see him, increasing his pace at learning day after day. So that quick feedback, it's there for the parents. And then those results that are sent to parents helps you know what your child is doing. Communication book can be online, so that works. So as we go into the next stage, so what obstacles do we see? Do you see any obstacles in fostering this relationship? Maybe relationship issues between the teacher, the parent, the way parents revere some teachers in some countries. And you've spoken about some parents don't want to go to school because they feel they're not educated enough or they're not dressed well to go to school. What other kind of obstacles do we see?
For fostering parent interactions?
Yes.
I think one of the obstacles that I see is I can teach anyone how to teach, but I can't teach them how to care.
Right.
So if our educators don't have the time to spend or the willingness to care, then I think that's a huge obstacle. And that comes a lot from our teacher training programs that we have. And we give them all the theory in those teacher training programs, but we hardly give them the practical application approach of what it really means to go that extra mile. We say extra mile in education, but it's not the extra mile, that's our job. That's our job, and we forget that. Sometimes we think that we're just imparters of knowledge, and then that's it. We grade papers, we give them a grade, and we're done. And we're not done. And anybody in this room who is an educator at this point knows that they've probably spent countless hours grading papers, talking to parents, mentoring students. But we forget that third piece of the stool, or the third leg of the stool, which is our parents.
I think the challenges in terms of fostering parent-teacher engagement, there are different kind of diversity in the types of the parents and the types of the and the standards or the context of the teacher as well. At one end, teachers are loaded with a lot of administrative work, as Dr. Iram said, looking after finishing the curriculum, grading, administrating, marking, all those data analysis and everything, which is taking time away from the teaching, which we can use technology to do that, rather than using technology for other aspects. We are not using technology where we need to use it. So all that administrative work, if we put it on technology, use of technology, we bring it into the school, so it will free a lot of time for teachers, where teachers can build on the human side of the education system, where they can interact more with parents. On the other side, parents are sometimes very fearful, as Dr. Iram said previously, like they feel, oh, how I will communicate, or how will I use technology to talk to the teacher, or if what teacher would say to me. Most of the time, because of either it's their teacher's own style of managing things or their own relationship style, many times teachers do not have time to even call the parents and tell them. Usually they call when there is a problem. They wouldn't call when there is to praise the child or to plan things, how they are doing it. They would call, okay, oh, this thing has happened in the class, you need to look at this. Or we want to meet with you, and they wouldn't give you any background why they want to meet with you. So at that point of time, then there are a lot of disconnect happens between parent and the teacher, and trust level goes down and down and down. So that is what, these are the different kind of barriers. So socio-economic barriers, where the social background or the economic background of the parent, it impacts the relationship building. The third is as language skills probably. There are a lot of, if you look at the school within the UAE, there are so many nationality. Parents are coming from a diverse background. Maybe all of the parents are not English-speaking parents. And when the teacher would send any note or any communication to the parent in English, many of times, these parents wouldn't understand what teacher has sent it. So we need to look at it. So there are so many challenges and barriers in building these relationships, so which we need to overcome for the benefit of the child and their learning outcomes.
How about we put it, the only and only barrier is taking the first step, right? Taking the first step in every manner possible. A lot of people in this room would not be even aware that Zoom, Google Meets, and such platforms existed back before COVID. They did. They were only being used by the corporates. We as educationists, we as administrators, we as teachers are in a place when we can create influence. But that influence can only be created once we take that first step for ourselves. We get educated first. We now, go to Google, we go to such meets, and we get educated that what are the new things coming up. Only and only then can we tell the students. What if a school in Texas was already doing the PTMs, was already doing the classes in 2018 via Zoom? Maybe 10% of it, maybe 20% of it. I can give it in written that that school would be the one least affected by COVID if they would have been using that technology.
I'll tell you a story. In 2018, there was a gentleman that approached me as I was in school. And he said, Dr. Adam, let's start an online school. And I looked at him and I said, that's a brilliant idea. But getting our teachers up to the technology, getting them upskilled, getting the content online, I came up with like a dozen things for him to think about, and essentially putting a stop to the project or the innovation that he had come up with.
So what happened after that, right?
So then
COVID.
God sent the COVID
Right.
and said, you're wrong.
So now God was like,
Let me tell you.
We gave you an option, you did not take it, now it's
right.
a forceful.
He said, let me tell you how this is going to work.
At the end of the day, we all are children.
Right. And as a result, by the way, that online school is now happening. So
Excellent.
It's there.
Excellent. So I'm sure we've used this few minutes to make a case for teacher-parent relationship. Any last words, 30 seconds before we take it to the crowd? Dr. Iram, 30 seconds to use your personal experience to leave a last word.
My last 30 seconds will only consist of the fact that I wish that our educators and our administrators, especially our administrators in this room, give the time and the opportunity to be creative, as that last presentation that was super creative, to really go out of the box and be able to build those relationships with not only their students but their parents, and know them on a very intimate level to help them, sincerely, with authentic relationships.
Mukta?
Adding on to what Dr. Iram said, I think we need to bring innovation to the education system, to employ various methods. The education system, the current education system was developed years back for the industrial age. Now it has changed. Each child is learning differently. There are different needs for each child. So we need to bring parents into the partnership to make a child learn the way they want to learn. Secondly, we need to enhance our teacher education systems, where we need to not only give knowledge. Most of the education systems, teacher education system, where teachers who are training the teachers are from the old mindset. Right. They are teaching them more onto the knowledge end of the learning, basically how this happens, these theories and all that, but the education system doesn't teach them how to implement that in the classroom. So we need to bring teacher education system which is based on the competency side, which is based on the actual skill competence, how to implement all that what we learn in the classroom while teaching. So we need to learn on job itself. So the education system teacher education system should build around the competence, skill level. We need to bring professional standards for teachers, where teachers could demonstrate how they are managing and how they are doing things. So it should be more on the learning on the job rather than just sitting in silo in the classroom.
I would just like to quote one thing. Back in India, it goes like, अच्छे parents and अच्छे teachers बच्चों के लिए अच्छा ही सोचते हैं. And we need to believe in that. The conversion, good teachers and good parents always think good for their child. And we firmly need to believe in that.
Excellent. So for me, I think it's a journey that the parent and the teacher should be on. It should not just be when things happen from the beginning of the semester, the term. There should be a plan. There should be a discussion up front when the child resumes school to talk about the child from the home front. And then feedback, setting goals and then having timely feedback to see how is this child progressing, especially judging from where they're coming from, and it becomes a deliberate act. Thank you for listening to us. It's now audience time. Any questions, please? Please go ahead.
All right, thank you for that wonderful discussion. So I come from the research. I mean, I'm from AR, augmented reality and virtual reality professor, but we've been working a lot on STEM and increasing understanding the barriers that the young girls face when they're choosing the STEM subjects. And that has been a lot of revealing things over there. And one of the influences or obstacles are sometimes the parents. Teachers are also part of it many times when they are not trained well, or when they are not, when they don't have themselves a good STEM development attitude. But there was a study in Wisconsin, I think, and the mic is gone. And what they did is they did a small study where there was an intervention where they wanted to change the stereotypical beliefs of parents towards STEM and its relationship with female gender, because it's usually considered a male-dominated field and a male field. And that implicit belief many times cross over to the girls as well. And even though they do well, they do not select STEM. And this intervention basically tried to impart utility value of STEM. So how STEM subjects would enable children to, their own children, the parents' children, to get their goals that they want to reach in their life. And that helped a lot, especially there was an increase in subject choice of girls because of that. And also the boys who were not doing very well in STEM, their performance increased. Now that was a small study. What I am curious about, because you are all in, working in these settings, is how realistic is it to use these teacher-parent interactions to change the stereotypical belief when it comes to STEM and girls?
You see, a school or institution, any working body has different verticals to it. As parent, we always see a school as, an association between a teacher and a student. There are counselors, there are administration, there are different parts to it. There, as you rightly quoted, there are different studies going on around. So the role of mentors, the role of counselors also come into the picture. Counselor is not one who only a student should go for any kind of a problem. Counselor is the one who explores the other parameters, the other fields of education also for the student. They help the student choose the right path for them. So a teacher might be very occupied in teaching, in day-to-day curriculum, in completing the academic course. So there is a role of the counselors which come in. So yes, there is a shift, and it's towards the positive end. But that comes when the parent has to understand, as I said, that there's another vertical, counselors, for helping the students, not only as doctors.
Right.
I mean, I can tell you how many times I've sat with parents personally with their daughters and some sons that wanted to go in, the girl wanted to go into STEM, but their parents said, no, nothing doing. It's just, it's not, I don't want her to be in that, in that environment. I don't want her to go far in so many studies. And usually it's a cultural thing. You'll see it in our Asian families a lot. And at that point, when you have those conversations with those parents, you do the best that you can to convince them, prove the data, bring the research, show them the accomplishments and achievements, the possibilities, what can happen, what cannot happen. But at the end of the day, all you can do is advocate with the child. And at the end of the day, it's their parents' decision. Is it a mindset shift? Definitely. When does it start happening? It doesn't happen when you're in 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. It happens when you're in 1st and 2nd grade. You start bringing that awareness to your parents at that age. I remember in a school at the elementary, we started to have career fairs and career opportunities and let the kids decide what career they wanted to choose. And we would promote STEM fields in the elementary level and then bring their parents to see all of this. And so slowly over the years, we saw that our numbers started to increase as to how many females versus males went into STEM careers. So it really happens at a young age where you plant that seed at a very young level where the stakes aren't high for the parents, because the parents are feeling like they're out of control right now.
Right.
You're trying to pull something that's in my control. It's my decision, and I know what's best for my daughter. They don't know what's best right now. And so what ends up happening is that you relinquish that control when you educate them from a very, very young age as to what all the possibilities there could be in STEM. It doesn't necessarily mean that they have to be a doctor or an engineer or this. There's so many careers in STEM, but they need to know what all exists in order for them to choose it.
Right.
I want to switch that up, to talk about when, in school, you basically do academia. And if you're not doing well in some subjects, you almost feel like, oh, as a student, I can't do this because I'm not doing well in the subject. Meanwhile, you're not performing well could just be that you don't like the way your teacher is, taking that course. You display your attitude more at home. So, and the things you get engaged in and the things that drive you, your passion. So I have a personal experience. So I'm in STEM now, but I didn't study STEM, because then we had this self-stereotyping that, STEM wasn't, was difficult, IT just wasn't it. But today I'm in tech. So I have a daughter who is in STEM, and her teacher felt she shouldn't be in STEM, but she wanted to be in STEM and demonstrated, the passion for it. And it took her owning up that the teacher that is taking physics, she just doesn't like the way he delivers it. And switching up teachers changed it up. She's in STEM now, she's doing excellently. She loves the fact that even though it's male-dominated, she's in it and doing well. So that's the importance of the relationship. So parents, teachers bring what they know about the child in the face of what's happening with their results, to just make sure that they finish that journey of being in STEM.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I mean, that what you talked about is something that we discovered in Germany as well, and we did 777, girls were studied in Germany in school from 9th grade onwards, and we took a lot of their feedback, and the critical events were the events where we just asked them, why did you decide to do this? And these critical events, as you mentioned, the most negative ones actually came from teacher, and it included curriculum design, the way teacher presented their own STEM self-efficacy, and the stereotypical behavior that teachers brought. So I do believe that teachers, first of all, has to be, I would say that you should really check the STEM attitude of teachers before hiring them. But I was just also trying to see if teachers can influence a parent in some way, or at least change the mindset at some point. But you made a very good point as well to do it at a very early stage, and I completely agree. Thank you.
I would have been a different type of doctor had I had a good math teacher. I'm telling you.
I can understand that. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
I think there's one more question at the back. We have exceeded our time.
Thank you very much. It was really nice to listen to you guys. Dr. Iram, I was reading your introduction, and you are hardcore related to curriculum. And obviously, the rest of the panel members are also very learned. Now, my question is, there is a lot of discussion about parents' perspective and the students' perspective and the teacher's perspective. And there is normally always a clash between the perspective of the parent and the teacher. Because teachers are normally more into the practices, more closer to the current research and all that stuff. I just don't want to extend that discussion. My question is only one thing. Like the teacher's evaluation framework, like Charlotte Danielson model and the Marzano's model and all that stuff, the list of do's and don'ts for the teachers, do we have any such list for parents? First question. The second question is, do you have any framework, or you're familiar with any framework that can bridge the gap between understanding and the perspective of the teachers and the parents? If there is any framework available for that, and if not, can you just throw a few bullet points? So I note it down, and I would love to implement that back in my schools with my administration. That can help out bridging those gaps. Because if we continue with that discussion that parents don't understand and the teachers don't understand, there is no end to that. But if we start writing down that this works and this is well tested and tried, that works. I thank you.
Something that's helped me in the past, so there isn't a framework that exists about parents' do's and don'ts, because we're always under the mindset that the customer is always right type of thing, and parents are our customers. And so they're always right in that regard, which isn't true always. But one of the things that I found to be very helpful at the very beginning of the year, especially when we're having like coffee with the leadership or coffee with the principal sessions, is to lay those expectations out every single time and let them know when it's not parent-teacher conference time, let them know that here's what we're going to do for you and here's what we need from you. and you list those 3 things out. And the top 3 things that I always had in my presentations is number 1, help us help your child, right? Number 2 is let's make sure that we keep composure. Because if we become uncivilized, then we're shutting the conversation down at that point, and we will have it again once you're able to be in a better emotional state, right? And then number 3, I always tell them that we are willing to modify, help, adapt, accommodate within reason. However, there are certain practices we have in place for particular reasons, and then you tell them the rationale of why, right? Why can't we change the grade? Why can't we give the test 5 times even if your child failed the 4th time, right? Why are we not able to extend the homework policy? Once you start explaining the whys behind things, you'll oftentimes see that most of your parents will come on board, but there's always that 1 or 2 that, will give you a run for your money, always.
Right. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We have exceeded our time by a lot. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please give a big round of applause to our panelists. We have had a fantastic day so far, ladies and gents, haven't we? It's been absolutely brilliant. All the panel discussions have been inspiring, informative.